everybody. This is Sanita Mitchell, and welcome to In the Mix with the Mitchells. Man, as you can see, my partner is not here tonight. Well, he's not in the chair, but he is here. But this is all about the wives tonight. This is our special segment. It is the fourth Sunday. Lord, I got church on my head. Don't mind her. Right. And so this is the fourth Thursday, which we do just for the wives. So purposely designed for the married woman is just for the married woman and we're going to talk about all kinds of topics on tonight. We're going to talk about health. We're talking about children. We're talking about husbands. We're talking about how to be a wife and not lose yourself. That's why it was so important for me to make sure that we had a segment that was just for the ladies. And purposely designed is God has created each of us to do something. And sometimes that can get lost when we become married and we become wives and then we become mothers and then aunties and then life, and we have our corporate jobs and we're doing all these things. And sometimes the things that we have a desire to do, we kind of push to the background. Well, I want to push those things back to the front. And I want us to learn how to take care of ourselves while doing it, right? So we can kind of have it all, right? We can have the career, we can have, our marriages, we can be great moms, but at the same time, we need to be executing the things that God has placed in us, all of these gifts. So tonight, we are going to have a great guest joining us. Oh my gosh, I am so excited about our guest tonight. And I'm going to introduce her, but I want to remind you guys or let you guys know about our upcoming event with our nonprofit. Anaya's Project. For many of you who may not know, Toney and I experienced a pregnancy loss when we were at 28 weeks of gestation. And so we began this organization to remember our daughter, Anaya Simone Mitchell. And we're going to be having a celebration for our nonprofit on April 27th at the Mercy Grace Center. And the Mercy Grace Center is right on Bright Seat Road. The tickets cost $60. I know this is our first fundraiser for the year, and most of the proceeds from our event will go to the cuddle cots. And if you don't know what cuddle cots are cots that look like bassinets that are given to families who have experienced loss. So when they have experienced their baby passes away, and they may not, it gives them more time to spend with their baby. So some people have taken the cuddle cots home because people want, to take pictures and make it more of a home memorial. And so the cuddle cot affords them that opportunity of looking the baby is in a bassinet and preserves the body so that they can do all the things that they need to do. And plus, some hospitals don't have the capacity to keep babies for a long period of time, and the cuddle cot allows the hospital or wherever they may be delivering their babies the opportunity to have the time. So in essence, all the participants for this event will be gifting grieving families the gift of time. And if you have never lost an infant, that is the most precious thing that you can ever have is time. And so that is what we will be focusing on. And it's going to be fun. Even though our subject and our topic is a heavy one, I guarantee you that it's going to be uplifting and enlightening for everyone who's attending. We have silent auction. We're going to have raffles. We're going to have some music. It's going to be very fun. We have some special guests coming. So go to Anaya's Project 1 year anniversary.eventbrite.com, and you'll learn how, if you want to be a sponsor, if you want to be a silent auction participant, we still taking those. And if you want to participate in the raffle, you can still do that. So please share the event. You do not have to be a person who has experienced loss to participate. Just come out and support this cause, because a lot of people are impacted by this. And we not only focus on pregnancy and infant loss, but we also help families who are dealing with fertility issues. So join us on this, again, April 27th, 2019. Okay, so that is one of our announcements for today. And so I'm going to get ready to bring up our special guest tonight. Let me introduce her before she comes up. Her name is Kimberly Cleveland, and she is affectionately known as the Wife Coach. She is an international speaker, blogger, ladies ministry leader, and an event producer. As the Wife Coach, she has counseled and prepared women to become amazing wives. Marriage, being a wife, and a mother are her passion, and that is why she started the Wife University. Wives, there is a university just for us. Okay? And she coaches wives through the challenges that they face in marriage. For those women who are looking to get married, she provides them with the tools and strategies needed to achieve their dream of becoming an amazing wife and have a successful marriage. Now, I don't know about you, but everybody needs a coach. So men, I know you're looking and you're watching, and we want you to take notes. I know this is the wives only, but you're going to hear from us tonight. So get your pencils, get your tea, get your hot chocolate, wrap up in your blanket. Don't fall asleep, because it's going to be very hot subjects and topics that we're going to be talking about in just a few moments. And I'm going to bring Kimberly up, and we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Kimberly will be joining us in this segment. Be right back. welcome back to In the Mix with the Mitchells, where I'm Sanita Mitchell, and as you can see, we have been joined by the beautiful Kimberly Cleveland. I don't know why am I like stumbling over that. The wife coach. So she's going to be helping us out tonight. So I'm going to let her do her introduction and tell the audience a little bit about you.
Yes, absolutely. As Sanita said, I am the wife coach. I am the CEO of the Wife University. Our mission is to help single women and give them the tools, strategies, and tips to become amazing wives. We also help wives who may be facing challenges in their marriage to navigate those challenges so that they too can have successful marriages and take their wife game to the next level.
Wow, that is good.
Yes.
That is so needed. So why do you feel like that needed to be done? What did you see that was lacking?
Yes, absolutely. So, being a wife has been one of my greatest passions since I was little. My grandmother and grandfather raised me. They were married over 60 years.
Wow.
And so I always wanted to be a wife, always wanted to be a mother. Unfortunately, I went through a divorce, and during that time, I just took a step back, took a look at my marriage, what happened in the marriage, took a look at myself, and I just began to pray to God, God, what is it? Why is it that so many people, not only myself, but those around me, are not successful in marriage? And what he dropped in my heart and in my spirit was, we spend so much time preparing for our education, preparing for our careers, 12 years, 14 years, 16 years, but we don't invest that same amount of time in the greatest role that we'll have, and that's being a wife.
Wow.
And so I really wanted to focus in on helping other women as I continued in this journey of preparing to be an amazing wife and have those successful marriages, because it is possible.
It is very possible. And you said something that was key, which was we don't train, you don't prepare to be a wife.
Right.
Like, back when like our grandmothers and our grandmothers' mothers, they kind of told them
there was a
how,
lot more training going on.
Yeah, it was a lot more like you need to be in this kitchen, you need to know how to cook. Now, I'm not saying that that's all that a wife does is just cook and clean.
Right.
But we were prepared for what that role was going to mean.
Right.
And what it was going to mean to be a wife that would be able to support her husband.
Exactly.
So they didn't do it all right all the time, right? So
Right.
like some of the stuff we would look at today and be like, I wouldn't put up with that.
Right.
But like I remember my grandma saying, when my grandfather would do stuff, when they don't tell you this stuff when you're little.
All
they wait
happened
till you
behind closed
right,
doors.
right. So now that we're older, they begin to share more information, and so it's like, oh yeah, I knew he did such and such.
Right.
And it didn't matter.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so for some, not saying my grandfather, but, some of her friends would say, like, oh, I knew he would have girlfriend down the street. That didn't bother me because he came home.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Or he didn't do certain things, but they just that's how a man was.
Right.
You can't always argue, you can't always fight, you can't always you might have a disagreement, but you may just, you don't talk about it with everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think that with that, it's kind of like, well, how do we break those things? Because some of that stuff wasn't accurate.
Right.
Like, we should talk about some
Exactly.
stuff. Like, he shouldn't have a girlfriend down the street. He shouldn't just be coming home, right?
Exactly.
So so let's talk about the person who let's start with the woman who is single. So how does she prepare herself for becoming a wife? Say she's in a relationship, say they're talking about marriage. So what should she do?
Right. What I counsel single women, the first step I always say is to heal from the past. That's the first thing. You don't want to take any kind of pain, any kind of baggage into your marriage, because that affects the marriage on both people's sides, whether it's the male or the female. Typically, and again, that's why a lot of marriages are failing, people are hurting. They haven't worked through their issues before they engage into a marriage. So they bring all that into a marriage. So when I'm sitting down with single women, I always tell them first, okay, is there anything in your past that we need to address? Is there anything that's still, happened to you in your past that may be causing you to have trust issues? Are you, again, fearful because of some things that have happened in your past? Many women are dealing with rape issues, molestation issues, you know, various issues that are painful, just painful relationships, you know, a broken heart that they still haven't healed from.
Right.
Is where I typically start there. Let's start with that. Let's get you into a healthy, happy, whole person, a whole being before you even get into the marriage.
Right.
And then we go into talking about, okay, what did you see? What did you grow up in? Did you grow up into a single family home? Did you grow up in a two-parent household? A lot of times, like you said, you could grow up in a two-parent household. I grew up with my parents, but like you said, everything that you see might not be right.
Right.
You know, or
Everything
may
you
not
heard.
work for your marriage or how you want things to work. So again, not necessarily everything that we grew up in is what we want to take into the marriage.
Exactly. That is so key because one thing that you said a lot of things, but the one thing I took away from it the most is if you're single, this is the time to work on your heart and getting over things that have hurt you and being okay, because I can say for me with Toney, like before I met Toney, I did that. It was like God was like, you got to be whole. You got to release all of the bad relationships and hoping that one that you just was hoping was the one, you know, in your mind, you know, that was the one. And like I always will joke and say, you know, I was in a relationship by myself for 2 years because the other person wasn't, you know, in that relationship with me. Right. And so when he finally ended it, it was very hurtful. Right. But, you know, I had to get over that. I had to heal from that because if I didn't, Toney was the next person to come along, and had I been broken, I would have missed the boat. Right. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I would have missed that opportunity, or I would have messed up and unleashed a whole bunch of stuff on Toney that he had no idea what, you know, where it was coming from. Because a lot of times, too, what I find is if they're not healed from it, they don't talk about it.
Right.
And so
they hold all that in.
Hold all that in, and then
usually the first argument, first confrontation, then it all comes out.
You just like that other person, right? And all this stuff in that person, that man is sitting there like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Where is this coming from? Because you're not healed enough that you can share the information, your past, with them. Because I'm going to tell you, if you're talking about being married, you're going to have to be transparent about everything. You should be able to tell your spouse everything. If you've been molested, they need to know, because I've seen so many and heard so many stories about if the spouse touches her or him in a way that reminded them of their abuser, that they become withdrawn. Or they become like, I don't even want to have sex. Do we have to have sex? Is that important in marriage? Right?
After you've gotten married.
After you got, after you've said I do, and one of the the partner is like, hey, we need to do this, and you like, I didn't know that came with this.
Right.
And they don't understand why, because you haven't shared that. So that's very important. Okay, so when they're dating, they need to heal. Okay, now they're dating, they're healed. Hey, I'm engaged now. What do I do?
Well, definitely, again, I always say, if even before you get to a relationship, if you really need to start preparing. It starts just like when you're in an education. It starts from day one. So even before you get, what I say, booed up, you've got to start preparing to be a wife.
And so what does that look like?
It doesn't start when you get the ring on your finger. I mean,
I don't wait.
No.
Oh, I don't wait till we get the engagement. Because a lot of times people do that. So let's talk about what's the difference between, this was a question I saw recently. What is the difference between dating and courting?
Again, according to whom? Again,
right?
So a lot of people have different definitions of dating, a lot of different definitions of courting. Dating just means we're just getting to know each other. Right. One-on-one, we're just getting to know each other. For me, courting means that, okay, and you may be dating 1, 2, or 3 people, because again, it's just getting to know people.
Getting to know you.
And so once you get to the courtship stage, you've narrowed it down to 2 or 3 people. Now you've narrowed it down to, this is the one that I'm serious about. This is the one, and he's already said, okay, I think we're moving in the direction of marriage. Let's see if this can work. To me, that's courting.
Right.
But again, nowadays, it depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
That's Kimberly Cleveland's definition.
Right. Some of those answers, I mean, I agree. Courting is, we're going to marriage.
Yes.
Dating, it should, hopefully, if you and both parties are saying, it all comes down to your goals.
Yeah.
Like, if you just dating and you just want to date and you don't want to be married and that is not your end goal, then I think you need to tell people, what are you dating for?
Right.
You just need to tell them so that you're hanging out. Be upfront.
Right.
Because the other person may be like, oh, okay, I'm dating you. We're going out. We're hanging out. I'm talking to you all the time. I'm sharing my innermost deep confidential information with you.
Right.
So I won't do that necessarily if you're just casually, hey, we just
and like
we just said, hanging out. We just
you make that known from the very beginning what the intentions are.
Right. Now I'm not saying on the first. Do we do this on the first date? Do we sit here and be like, I want to be married?
I think you do.
Okay. Because that's a question. It's a legitimate question
you have
for
to
singles.
Understand
when
the culture that we're operating in. And as a single woman who may be serious or a single woman who may not be serious, and vice versa. Men, you need to make that explicitly clear, because I need to know if I'm a woman who's in a space where I just know I've got myself together and I'm ready to be married, I'm ready to be a wife. Why am I just out here casually dating?
Right.
So I need to let him know that I'm not just casually out here dating.
Right.
I'm looking for something serious, because there's a lot of people out here who are not looking for anything that's serious. So I think you do need to have that conversation early on.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's key. So if you're single and you're wondering, like, when do I talk about this? You talk about it at the beginning, right? Me and Toney was perfectly clear with where we wanted. I know I wanted to be a wife. I can't say it was on the first date that we talked about it, but we talked so much that, we just talked so much every day on the phone before we even got to the first date.
Right.
We was already talking on the phone
Right.
for a long period of time. On the church parking lot, we met at church. So we talked all the time. So it was kind of, I just know somewhere along that lines it was we wanted to be married, and marriage was an end goal at some point.
Right.
Not saying I'm gonna marry you.
Exactly.
Please don't do that. That's like such a red flag. Unless
second date.
Your second date.
Right.
And you've never, you haven't been talking to that person for a long period of time.
You don't even know them.
Right. You don't even know them. They're just hey, you might have met somewhere and y'all might have had some casual conversations and you might have went out on your first date. And then now you're on the second date, you're like, you're the one. What? Wait a minute.
Instant turn off.
Red running. Flag, ding, 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 something's wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But, you want to slow walk it. So what exactly does preparing to be a wife looks like? So tell them, don't go all into your coaching program, but kind of tell them, what does that mean? Because, some people may be like, well, what I need a coach to tell me on how to be a wife, right?
Absolutely.
So how do I prepare? What does that look like?
Absolutely. Again, you need to study the men, first of all, because men and women are different. How you communicate with your girlfriend is not how you communicate with your man. For example, a man is not going to want to talk and know all the details. He wants to get cut straight to the chase.
All the men in the order
shaking their head already. So you don't necessarily, with your girlfriend, you'll sit and get all into the details. You might go off and on a tangent over here and then come back. No, he wants you to keep it straight to the point. Tell me exactly what it is I need to know.
Right.
And then also tell me, do you want me to make a decision? Are you wanting some input? And tell him up front, I just want you to just listen to me. I don't need you to do anything. I don't need you to help me make a decision. I just need you to listen to me.
Right.
So that's key, because communication is a huge
Communication is huge.
challenging,
Yeah.
right, in a marriage.
It's very challenging.
And especially if you're not used to talking to men. If you've been talking to women most of your life and you haven't really been engaging and dating, and talking to men, that's something that you need to understand and, learn.
Right. And you do have to learn that. That is
Right.
something that is learned.
Your tone.
Your tone. Watch your tone. Watch them eyes,
Yes.
right? Ladies always...
You don't even know that you do it.
You don't
and
even
you
know
do it
you
with your
do.
girlfriend. Your
Right,
girlfriend
your
understands
girlfriend
it's
like
not
don't
offensive.
care. They be
Right.
like, girl, child,
Exactly.
please, and that might be offensive
Yes.
to your soon-to-be husband or your husband if you roll in your eyes because they may not know, like, especially if you just got married, they may not know because they're still learning you. So let's talk about that real quick because, okay, we moved from dating, okay, we got engaged. Let's talk about once you are the new wife. And those expectations.
Which expectations?
Of the new wife. Like, so, for example, so let's talk about it from a wife's perspective.
Right, you're the new wife.
You're wife, you got your gown, your gown is hung up, it's put in the box, your wedding went off without a hitch, it was what you wanted. Now you are the wife. What now?
It's a continual process. I would definitely say even before you get married, but definitely once you get married, continue to study your man. Being a wife means that you're going to have to minister to this husband of yours.
What does minister mean? Because some people may not know what that means. They may just think, I got to preach to my husband? Because that's what I think of a minister, they preach.
No. Minister means that you basically are taking care of their needs. That's what ministry is. Even when you're talking, again, for those who don't know, in church, it's fulfilling a need, serving. So you're serving your husband, you're fulfilling a need. And you need to study him to know what his needs are. Every man is different. You might be married to a man who wants you to, like you said, cook every day. I want a home cooked meal every day, 3 times a day. Or you might be married to a man who's like, I don't really care if you cook
I can make
or not.
arranges. Right. I can
I'll
arrange
cook.
a meal. Right. I'll cook. Bless the Lord. Yes.
So, again, when you become that new wife, you are a student.
Yeah. And that is important. Let's say that again. You are a student of each other. Now, we're not, please don't write
I'm
saying,
glad you said that.
Y'all only focusing on the wife because this is the
wife
wife
show.
segment.
Yes.
So we're only talking about the wife. We're not saying that the husband is not supposed to study the wife. We're not saying what the husband should be doing. What we're talking about is from a wife's perspective. What we should do, because iron sharpens iron, and as the wife coach, this is what she does. She is to push us to be better.
Absolutely.
Right? And sometimes in order to be better, we have to know that we don't always have it right. Now, I don't want to leave out the ladies who are not newlyweds, right? So you're always studying each other. Yes. Like, no one should know your spouse better than you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Again.
No one should know your spouse better than you.
Yes.
Nobody should notice that the bottom of his pants is wrinkled before you notice that the bottom of his pants was wrinkled.
Yes.
Nobody should see that little string on his shirt before you see the string on his shirt.
Yes.
Nobody should reach for that string either. Let me be clear. Don't reach for that string. I'm going to tell you, I ain't that kind of wife. Don't pick nothing off him. I do it myself. Right? So it's like, it just depends on who you are, right? So, so we talking about the boundaries. Let's talk about boundaries.
Yes.
So we're talking about studying our mate, because even when you're dating, you're studying that person. Is this a person that you want to be with? Is this the person that you want to, spend the rest of your life with? Come on, let's talk about that life.
Yes.
When we stand up, and especially if you are a Christian, you stand up at that altar, and it's wonderful to have gowns and your bridesmaids, but do you understand that those people are supposed to be with you for the duration of this marriage? They have also entered into a covenant relationship with you, because they're supposed to be holding you accountable for what you said you were saying I do to.
Right.
So be careful. That I don't even know where that came from. So somebody needed to hear that, because when they're standing there, that it's your good girlfriend and all of that stuff, and they're going to look good in the pictures and all of that. But what they're really signing up for is to partner with you for the rest of your life. They are life partners. So when y'all having arguments and you go to one of them and say, well, she getting on my nerve or he's getting on my nerve, they're not supposed to be like, yeah, well, yeah, you should bounce. That's not supposed to come from them. They're supposed to say, well, you better go back to their house and you need to figure out a way to handle that situation. Right? Because they're your accountability partners. Now, how important is it for the wife to have accountability partners?
Absolutely. You have to have an accountability partner. I mean, your first accountability partner is your mate.
Right.
But you make a good point about the people that you surround yourself with. You want to surround yourself with women who are going to support your marriage. And sometimes that may mean telling you, hey, you're out of line, sis.
Right.
You know, in
Say
love.
that again.
Yes, but they're here to support not only you, but to support your marriage, because like you said, you've entered into that covenant relationship. So at times they might have to encourage you. They might have to edify you by telling you, hey, you know, that was wrong. I think you handled that wrong. You know, you're in the restaurant. Your tone was a little rough, sis.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, or like, let's go to the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah, let's go to the bathroom. You know, I don't want to go by myself. Come on, girl, go with me.
Right. They can
go in that bathroom and you tell her, you need to pipe down. Like, you're really, like, is everything okay? Are you stressed out today? Like, I
can tell you need a moment.
You need a moment because, like, you just took that and blew up you about to blow up the whole ship.
Right.
Over something that is not, you're taking it out of. But that's important.
Right.
You got to have that. You can't have friends that's always going to tell you right.
Exactly.
And you have to, let's talk about the forgiveness piece of marriage. And
big one.
Forgiveness in any relationship is huge. So how would you handle forgiveness?
Absolutely. Forgiveness is huge. A lot of times I find that when I'm coaching women, we can forgive our friends, we can forgive our family, but something about forgiveness when it comes to a spouse. And I think it's just that because we love them so much, we hold them in high esteem, that when something does happen, whether you feel like they did you wrong or they said something the wrong way or I can't believe they did this, it hurts because that's the person you love. But in the same way we forgive our family and our friends, our children, you have to forgive your spouse. You have to remember they're human.
Right.
And you have to enter into that relationship knowing that they're human and they are going to do some things that are wrong. They're going to do some things that are going to hurt you. And you've got to have forgiveness. If you want to make this a lifelong covenant, as you talked about, you're going to have forgiveness.
Forgiveness is
That's what God has with us each and every day.
Right. Isn't it amazing? That is true, because we'll go to work and they will make you so mad, steal your project, take the credit, or somebody else gets the bonus and it was really your work.
Yes.
And they're only acknowledging, that person. So, but we forgive that, we move on. But like you said, if the spouse does something, then it's like we just don't forgive. And so how do we forgive? So we can say, yeah, you need to forgive, but what is a step they can do that helps them to forgive? So say a spouse cheats, or say a spouse says something, because you can't take words back. I don't know who lied and said sticks and stones hurt your, but words don't. That's a lie. Words hurt.
And it's different for every situation that I'm counseling a woman. And forgiveness on infidelity, I would handle one way. Forgiveness and I don't know.
Okay, do infidelity.
Something he chose to, I don't know, chose mama's side versus your side. That's something different. But you've got to work through it. You've got to work through it. First, you've got to acknowledge that you're hurt. You've got to tell your spouse that you're hurt, why you're hurt. again, hopefully in your marriage, you're in a situation, you're with someone who wants to work through it, work with you. You know, it's not one-sided, so you both have to want to work through it, even if it comes to infidelity.
Yeah.
That they want to, again, want to keep the marriage whole.
Yeah.
You know, if they just say, no, I don't want to keep the marriage whole, then you don't have much to work with. You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
So, but it all starts there, acknowledging what the offense was, working through whatever you're feeling, and then coming up with a resolution on how are we going to continue to move forward, and how are we going to put this behind us. Not that you forget, you know, things you can't forget, the wrongs, but you can move forward,
right,
and not let that cripple you.
And it really starts with you letting things go.
Yeah.
And that's in marriage a lot.
It sounds easier than
it sounds very easy. And if you have any questions, please join us by dialing in at 240-719-2560. Again, 240-719-2560. So I think you have some comments on your
Tamika said, yes, being transparent and having open communication is the only way. Absolutely. That goes back to that communication piece.
Communication only happens and forgiveness can only occur when there's transparency.
Yep.
Transparency means I can see through, right? There's nothing that I'm hiding. Right. I don't have any blinds where I'm just showing you the pieces that I want you to see. I'm letting you see all of the ugly me.
Right.
And that's what you really have to get to if you're going to have a successful marriage. If you're going to be a wife, you're going to have to learn that it's not always about you.
Right.
And there is a word that a lot of people, so what are your thoughts on the word submission?
Submission, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. You know, some people really get like bent out of shape about submission.
Makes their skin
but like
fall.
That's the other S word. You know, like, oh no, we ain't talking about sex, but it's like submission.
Every day in other situations.
Every day we
submit to our bosses. We submit to those in leadership, whether it's our pastor or our deacon. But we submit every day.
If you
women have to look at submission differently. Submission is not standing in a position of weakness. It's standing in a position of power. You're saying, I'm laying down my power in order that you might direct and lead us. That's what submission means.
Right.
And that's what you're doing when you do it at work with your boss. You're saying, I'm a powerful individual. I have thoughts, feelings, emotions, whatever, ideas. But I'm laying mine aside because you've been placed in a position of authority and a leadership to guide us and get us where we need to go. Not that I'm not powerful, not that I don't have ideas, not that I don't.
I'm seen and I heard. Right. That's not what that means.
No, it means definitely your husband, you are there to help him. You're there to be that other voice of reason. You know, he should value that in you. The wisdom that you have, the intuition that you have. So, you know, you're kind of like, you know, co-counsel.
Right.
So, no.
You are in a very powerful position.
It does not mean to be, you know, seen and not heard.
Right.
Definitely not.
And, you know, again, if you're talking about God is the God of order. And so everything has an order to it. And so He gives you the specifics. And it doesn't say that you are, you know, less than. But there is an order. And like I always say, God holds him way more accountable. Let him have that pressure, right?
That's not easy.
It's not easy to be the head,
in a position of leadership,
because God holds him accountable, the man accountable for what he does to you. He is responsible for the entire household. I don't care if you lose your job. I don't care if you make more money than him or whatever. He is responsible for the household. And to submit and that's another thing, you know, it says submit to one another. Submit to wives, submit to your husband. Husbands, submit to your wives. But somehow we miss that whole verse. But anyway, that's submission. It does not mean that you are, but like you said, we do it at work and we don't question it whatsoever. You can have the most dominating boss ever. They don't want to hear from you. They don't want to see your thought. Your thought is never on the presentation. Your name is never mentioned. They don't recommend you for nothing. You don't say anything. You just go to work. You do your job. You don't say nothing.
And
it's hard It is hard.
It is very hard. But unlike work, sometimes you don't have a choice in who you submit to.
Right.
When it comes to your husband, as a woman, I always tell women, make sure that you're linking up and in a covenant relationship with somebody that you can submit to.
Right.
That's, another thing I always have to tell women. Just because he asked you to marry him doesn't mean you got to marry him.
Right. Please
just
say
as much
no
as he's
if you don't feel
interviewing
it.
you to be a wife, you're interviewing him to be a husband in
That's
that
right.
getting to know, courting, dating phases that we talked about. So
That's
again,
true.
if at any point you get those red flags where you're like, I don't think I can follow his leadership, then that's when you pump the brakes.
Right. And it is learned, because I can speak from, I know, like, just going from a single woman, but then, like, if you were a single parent where you were used to making all the decisions and you're running the household for another person, sometimes that's hard to let go of the reins as well. And so you may have that hard time with, letting go.
Right.
I mean, and I'm not saying you
Right.
let it go and you just like, I don't have nothing else to do. But what I'm saying is it's a difference between you're the only one making the decision, and now you have a partner
Right.
with you that may have, and you okay as long as the partner is saying, oh, that's a good idea. But the moment that they don't have a good idea, or they don't go with your
Differences.
idea,
Right.
then, I'm doing this, I'm the woman, I've been doing this before I met you. You know what I mean? This
Right.
wasn't an issue before. What's the problem? And then you got the neck roll and you got all
Right.
this other stuff going on, because they see differently on a situation than you do. So how do we deal with conflict resolution as a wife?
Conflict resolution as a wife. Again, it all stems back to communication. You've got to have good communication skills. So that's one of the things I tell women when they're single: work on your communication skills. Not just, in general, but again, communicating with a male is different than communicating with a female. So you've got to always consistently be working on your communication skills. Again, when you talk about conflict resolution, that goes back to problem solving. Are you a good problem solver? Even in your singleness, do you know how to work through a problem and come to a resolution, a good resolution? So that's what the kinds of things you should be working in. And you work through that at work, whatever environment you're on, that's in the back of your mind. That's how you're preparing when you're single.
Right.
You're constantly trying to work on your communication skills. You're trying to work on your problem-solving skills. You're trying to work on that, whether it's in customer service, that difficult customer, when the pressure is on and the challenges and things are heated, how is your demeanor? Do you take your voice down?
Right.
Or is your voice escalating? That's how you work through conflict resolution.
Right.
Communication is so complicated, and so that's why it's so critical that you work on that, because it's what you hear, what you think you heard, what they said, what they actually said, what they're saying in their body language, what they said in their words, what they said with their tone. You got to be able to work through all of that.
Right. And are you the person cutting them off?
Right.
That they don't finish.
Right.
Because you've already, like, as soon as they say something, I didn't, and that ain't.
I'm guilty of cutting people off.
Wait 1 minute, let me get it, and that person can never finish their comment. That is not good conflict resolution. And I know I'm guilty because, like, and I can tease Toney because I tell him all the time, like, Toney's from Arkansas. So sometimes Toney can, when we met, he would talk about my minivan, and I told him I was going to put a C on his car for country. Because sometimes that Arkansas drawl will come out of him, and he will talk so slow, and I would just be like, spit it out. You know what I mean? And he'll be like, you're cutting me off. And for him, if you do that, he will just not talk. Like, Toney is the most, I call him my diplomat, because he will simply just not say nothing. Like, he will sit there and I can just go and another thing and da-da-da-da-da. Not that we have many arguments, but like sometimes something get me riled up. Right. It may not even have anything to do with him, but I'll just be like running my mouth, and he'll try to say something and I will cut him off. And then he'll wait, and then he'll get going again, and he'll say something and I'll cut him off again. And I had to learn, and he told me, if you stop cutting me off, I can find it. And he'll be like,
trying to raise his hand.
right, like, can I get in? Like, and sometimes once I've kept my mouth shut long enough, I will learn that after I went all around the barn, he already was getting ready to say
Or agree.
with what I was saying from the beginning. Because I'm like the attorney. I'm like coming with him with all kinds of facts, right? Stuff that he don't even need, right? And with him, it's just clear cut. Or sometimes he'll just end the whole conversation because he just will be like, okay, you know, we just need to he's like, we need to table this. But he was like that when he came in. Like, I've seen him with other people, and he'll just be like, okay, we'll come back to that. Like, it takes a whole lot to get him riled up and arguing, and it's still just like, that's all you got. Like, I'm just like, 'cause that's it? That's all you got?
Right.
But for resolution's sake, somebody has to stop the madness, right?
Well,
and you can't keep arguing. Yep, go ahead.
Is that another point of communication is taking those pauses. Because we all feel like sometimes they're going on and on and on. And sometimes you need to take those pauses to make sure, did you hear what I said? Did you understand? Because if you go on a 10-minute tangent or 5-minute tangent, you said so much, I can't even keep up with all your points. I can't even address all your points. So it's always good when you're talking about communication, after about 2 minutes, take a pause.
Right.
Now, and say, what did you hear me say? Because maybe they didn't interpret what you said right.
Right. And it gives them a chance to say something about what you said.
Exactly.
You know, because you went on for a whole 30 minutes, and they had some points, and they was trying to wait their turn. You didn't talk for a whole hour. They don't even know. They didn't lost their point, or you didn't say something else that they didn't thought about, so the point is lost.
Right.
So in conflict resolution, ladies, we want to make sure that we take a pause, that we, you know, and sometimes it's hard because, you know, we can be very emotional beings, and we can just let things rip, but we got to learn to pause and let our spouses speak. And, you know, we know some of this stuff at work. You know, we do it, you know, well, what did you hear me say? But then we don't do it when we at home with our spouse. We just expect them to take our anger.
Right.
And that's not always good. Like, you got to give them the same respect or more that you would give your supervisor. You would never cut them off. You would never say, are you done? Like, are you done? Like, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do that. Like, okay, so are you finished? You know what I mean? Like, with the head roll, you wouldn't really do that at your job.
Absolutely.
Not with your senior management. You might do it with somebody that you think is, you know, may not have no real power, but you're not going to do that at the board meeting.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not going to do it. So as we, let's see what are some of your comments. Wait a minute. If it's hard not to cut them off, especially if they're wrong. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes, yes, but that's all a part of sometimes the submission piece.
And the respect. Even if you think they're wrong, you have to respect that they have an opinion, even if you think their opinion's wrong or you disagree with their opinion.
Right. Or their decision on something. Like, they've done something that you like, that's just, and you know it's not going to work. Okay, and you've told them your idea, and you've told them your opinion, and you said, babe, I don't think that's going to work, but they really feel like this is the way they should go, then they do it. So when it don't work, don't be like, I told you. I told you it wasn't going to work.
Good point.
I told you don't do it. Like, they don't need to told you so because they already know that they've made a mistake. So at that point, ladies, your husband is already beat down. Like, I know my husband he has a very stressful job, and a lot of things go on at work, and they get a lot of pressure.
Right.
Just, you know, just being black or whatever they are as men, they just have a lot of pressures at work, and they don't need to come home and be like, I told you so, you know, and, you know, little Susie Q in the cube next to him that, you know, wearing her shirt down, you know, and, you know, it's like, oh, you made a mistake, but it's okay, you know, everybody makes a mistake, and she's very like understanding, and then he comes home to his wife every day and she's constantly throwing in his face all his mistakes. I'm not saying this gives him the permission to go out and go talk to Miss Sally Sue in the next cube. What I'm saying is, don't make her look good as an alternative to you. Don't be the hellion at home. Every man wants to come home to peace.
Yes.
And every man wants to come home to acceptance and respect. I think that if we can learn to respect our husbands in the way, we will get a lot more things out of them when they know that we respect them, when they know that we trust them, when we know that we honor them. And again, for those who may have joined later on, we're only talking about from a wife's perspective. So please don't think we're just saying all of this rides on the wife in what she's doing. We're just talking about what we can do as wives to help our relationships be better.
Exactly.
So in closing, what are some of the programs that you have that help? I know you talked about your university, so tell them about that.
Absolutely. So I just finished a webinar that I did about how to heal and have hope after divorce. I also just finished a program called How to Be That Good Thing, helping single women become that good thing, preparing to be a wife. Good. So those are the types of programs that I do. I do individual coaching. I do group coaching, webinars, online courses. So those are some of my programs.
Where can they find that?
Absolutely. I have a website, www.thewifeuniversity.com. I am on Facebook at The Wife University, and I'm also on Instagram, The Wife University.
Good. Now, are your programs only for single women?
No.
Or I just want to make sure.
No, I do a lot of coaching for wives, and I also do programs for single women. So I do both.
Okay, good. I wanted to put that out there just in case, someone thought, oh, she only works with preparing people to be wives, but she actually coaches us wives. And ladies, look, everybody needs somebody.
Yes.
And sometimes the person that you need is not in your circle. Right? You need a coach. You need a coach.
Sometimes it's good to go outside of your circle.
Yeah,
because a lot of women don't, like you said, want to put their business out there.
Right. And sometimes we're very comfortable with our circle. So sometimes our circle might be too complacent on some things, you know what I mean? And they don't know how to help you other than just giving you, their opinion. And sometimes it's good to have a coach that can kind of give you some different perspectives and a different way of looking at it. And we all need help, right? We take our car.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you might could work on the car, but sometimes you still take your car over to Jiffy Lube for the oil change, right? So you may have friends who've been married for a long period of time, and you're like, oh, I got my mentor, I got my accountability person, but you still need a coach to help you even more, right? Because we're still studying. Okay, so let me just see any last comments, questions. They say Susie Q gonna get these hands if she try to mess with their man. So did anybody had questions?
No, I think they were all agreeing yes. Love the intentional pauses. Yes.
Okay. So as we get ready to close, what would be your message to the wives?
To the wives. I would definitely say, kind of echo what you just said, that always be working on yourself. Your marriage goes through different stages. Your spouse is always growing. You're always growing. Try to grow with your spouse. And again, that goes back into staying in tune with them and studying them. And, it goes both ways. Like you said, it's not just the wife. But always just becoming that better woman, always studying and trying to be better, and ask them, how can I be better?
That's good. Yes. Ask the question.
Yes. Yeah. Ask them directly, because what you think, again, may not be what they think. When I was married, I used to think cooking every day was what he wanted. He was like, no, you're always in the kitchen. I just want you to be with me. Let's go do something. Let's go hang out. Let's go do something. So again, ask them, because what we think is help may not be help for them.
Right, and that's good. And so as we close, the last word I would say is ladies, be present. Right? Be present. Sometimes we're doing so much. We're running around. We're doing a lot of things for a lot of other people. We're working our own jobs. We're doing all these things. We're being everything to everybody else. We have to be present with our spouse. So make it your business and be intentional on spending that quality time with your spouse. And it doesn't mean you have to go out to eat. It doesn't mean you have to spend any money. It's just about taking those pauses and looking at each other in the eyes and really being engaged and intentional in saying, this is what I need, or what do I need to do to serve you better. Right? And so with that, thank you so much for joining me,
Thank you for
Kimberly.
having me.
And thank you all for joining us on In the Mix with the Mitchells, where you can catch us here every Thursday night at 9:15 from 10 to 15. So we'll look forward to seeing you for March, where we'll be having our March Madness. We are going to be ready. So we'll see you next week. Thank you, and God bless.